One of the goals of To Whom I May Concern is to get the conversation going, and a conversation that's been initiated by people diagnosed. And so that's what the talk back is about. This is a time when anybody can ask questions, comments. There was a lot said in that video, and so we just encourage you. Obviously the people that were on the screen are very willing and able to talk about their experience. So please, anybody have a question or a comment? Richard fell off his chair. I hope you're okay, Richard.
Okay, I muted you again now that you're back on your chair. So if you can type in your questions in the group chat box, that would be great, because I think if we allow everybody to talk, mass confusion will ensue. And the people who are in the play, Jan and John and Joe and Sue, are available to answer your questions. I saw a lot of different comments come through on the chat box during the video. And while you're just thinking up your questions, just to get the discussion going, Michael, I saw Michael, I don't think it was Michael Ellenbogen. There's somebody on here named Michael who made the comment, you made a lot of really great comments throughout the video, but you said, does everything have to stop at that moment of diagnosis? And I thought that was really enlightening. So Sue or John or Jan or Joe, what do you think? Does everything have to stop? How do you feel? How does everything stop?
Well, it's Sue. I think you're made to feel that. The way that I was diagnosed, I was told that this was it and forget it, and nobody encouraged me that any other way. So that's what the month that I spent running around and running off my anxiety. I had to build the future back in that I wanted. It was clearly the way it was announced to me from the doctor. It was, they were emphasizing this was it. And so, I mean, it's up to you at that time.
Okay. Yeah, and I would add, I found kind of a new purpose in advocating and connecting with other people that are diagnosed, but your career definitely is over, and so many of us kind of measure us by our career, and with that being yanked out from underneath you, it also yanks a lot of possibilities for financial security for the future away from you, and I think that's what some of us think about as being over.
When they finally came up and told me what was going on, which I kind of already knew, it's not like your life ends right at that moment. But what happens is that there is a realization that your life as you knew it a year ago or so is gone. And as it was yesterday is gone. As it is today will be gone. I've spent 40 years in another program taking care of another disease that I have, and I was taught to live one day at a time. And I envy the people in the program that can live one day at a time now, because I can't. Because I honestly do not know where I will be tonight. I don't know where my brain will be. I don't know if I'll be with you. I don't know, because I've watched it happen too many times and have listened to too many people tell me their stories about their parents who were great and wonderful. They were smart for all these years. 4 months before they died, right down the tube. They woke up next morning. They didn't know anything. And it It happens in this disease, and people have to understand that. Yes, I am living with Alzheimer's. I am living with FTD, but I am also dying with it. You know, it's not like somebody's going to come up and give me a pill and say, here, Joe, take this. It's going to straighten everything out. Although I've gotten over 1,000 cures that I've documented from people that'll cure Alzheimer's. And somebody even wrote a book about one and how wonderful it was. And that person's husband has had 2 extreme relapses with the disease and has started to have seizures. And now this person's giving them Valium.
I agree. Thanks, Joe. The questions are coming in hard and fast, so I'm just going to review it. Thank you. Thank you, especially as you started talking. That really sparked a lot of questions. Michael Ellenbogen, yes, you can, but I'm just going to catch up on some of these questions here. So way back here, we had a question. From Biondo, what is the most effective action any of you have taken to feel, quote unquote, normal in a world of denial or apathy? Jan, we haven't heard from you. Do you feel like talking, or am I putting you on the spot?
No, you're not putting me on the spot. There is no normal. You don't go back to finding a normal once you've been diagnosed. For 3 years prior to my diagnosis, it was mental health issues was what was blamed until I got a really good neurologist who had an idea that it was FTD, and then did the testing. There is no going back. Your life changes forever. There's not one moment where you can say, I found my new normal, because your life is ever changing.
Mm-hmm. Sue or John, Joe, any thoughts?
Well, one of the things is long time ago, I made a commitment in my life to learning. I'm curious and I'm learning, and I made a promise to myself with this that I was not going to drop that. Whatever I did, I'm going to keep my curiosity up, and I'm going to do whatever I can at whatever level I can to keep learning. And I keep that focus. I don't care what the learning is. Maybe in the end, it's going to be how to feed myself. I mean, we have to make, whatever it is. So that's my kind of line that I use for myself.
Okay. Gwen Williams, says, hello, thank you ever so much for making the video and sharing your experiences. You mentioned your online web chats, blogs, and Facebook groups. I am interested in how technology can help both in assisting day-to-day and being able to improve quality of life. What role does technology play in your lives? What do you think of technology? Thank you. A lot of questions there. John, you're kind of our techie guru here. What do you think?
Well, I think it's opened up amazing possibilities for people to connect, and as we've done with our online support group using the same software, it's amazing to be able to connect with other diagnosed people in this virtual world, and it opens up support to people who might not have any other way of getting support and connecting with other diagnosed people. I think it's just amazing.
I know I connect on a daily basis through the internet because of the group. I probably have apathy the worst of anyone. And most of my days are spent at home. And so without technology, I think my decline would be more rapid.
Mm-hmm. I think.
Can I just add to that? What's been amazing to me with both groups that have done this is that after a while you truly forget that you're not in the same room with each other. There's a camaraderie and friendship that builds that you start, you look forward to, well, when are we going to get together next? So I think this online, the technology has really opened up possibilities for connecting people. And I think we need to, and I'm sort of speaking to the professionals among us, we need to help maybe to facilitate that because everybody doesn't have a webcam and everybody isn't as good with the computer. But it can make a big difference for people that are otherwise isolated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a big difference with people who have younger onset dementia, or even the generation who are now retired, they're getting older, 60s, 70s, and just statistically they become more at risk of developing some sort of dementia. We all have used computers for 20 or 30 years, and it's natural to us. There are communities that do have face-to-face support groups for people with dementia. I think it's still a relatively new phenomena, but they are available. However, even amongst this group of people who are in the early stages of dementia, there are a number of people who have given up their licenses. They don't drive. They don't feel good about taking the buses, or they are feeling somewhat feeling like withdrawing, like Jan has expressed. And the technology reaches into the home as opposed to that person having to leave. And it's really has helped to cut out a lot of the isolation. And I also realized, too, that using the technology, whether it is this type of face-to-face video conferencing or the Facebook group that John runs, and there are other groups on Facebook, the voices of the people who are diagnosed with dementia are now getting out, and they weren't heard before, and now they have a new way. And it's almost like an Arab Spring sort of thing where everybody's tweeting and twittering and Facebooking. Well, what happens when you get 100 people with dementia all talking to each other? I think magic happens and change is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the impact of technology.
Our hope in doing this was that people would see the ease of using it, and you each would form your own little video group. You each would use Zoom yourself to create little online groups and connect with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're using this for the webinar. We're using this with 2 online support groups for people with dementia, and we just started an online memory cafe. So it's kind of neat. Okay, back to questions. There was a comment about finding a doctor. It's hit and miss with neurologists. You got to find one that listens to you. It's so important to get a correct diagnosis. Where do I go? I've had such trouble. I think everybody's heard that before, and Joe expressed it really well during the video in the script. And Joe, so what are your experiences? What can you say about getting your search for a doctor? Sue had quite a time of it as well.
Well, I took and I stayed with my general practitioner who I've been with for 20 years, and I started seeing a psychologist who started to help me. And I did it at the advice of my GP, and fortunately, I got a psychologist whose father died from this disease. So as we talked, he already could see what was going on. I have a psychiatrist as well, and I gone to a number of neurologists, and I went to one of the best here in California the last time. And the only reason, and she asked me why I was there, and my wife was with me, and she says, because he wants somebody to tell him the damn truth, because I had a PET scan and everything that had come out on it. And she turned around, she looked at me, she said, you know exactly what's wrong with you. She gave me, all the neurological tests with the hands, which I promptly failed. And she told me, she asked me what medications I was on, and I was on Aricept and Namenda. And she said, do yourself a favor, take both of them and get rid of them. Because I've seen nobody in my so many years be really helped by them. I've heard that from 4 neurologists that I've seen. And she also told me, she says, you know what? She says, go home and enjoy the rest of your life, which is what I've been trying to do. But, you know, this disease gets in the way because you just don't know. I go out and get the mail. I'm scared to death that I'm not going to come back from the mailbox because I have a tendency to forget where I'm going. I've had to be led back home by my granddaughter from the park because I didn't know where we were. You know, and it happens in an instant. And that really is something I don't think people out there understand, how quickly we can forget something.
Right.
I took a memory test. I'm in a trial right now. I took a memory test, and, you know, they give you all the words and that. Well, boy, can I remember things. You know, I can't remember duck from soup. And that's what this disease does to you. I know a lot of people say, hey, yeah, but you're still living and you're still going on. Well, I want to ask a question to those that say that. How do you feel when you know that one thin slice of your brain has been cut off today? How do you feel about that? How would you feel about that? Would you call that exactly living? No. The doctors out there don't know. It's up to us with the disease to educate them.
Right. I think Sue would agree with you because, Sue, do you feel like sharing a little bit about what you basically had to educate the doctors yourself, I think. Yeah.
It's not what I have is not well known. PCA is there's a very good group in London doing just marvelous things, pumping out information for this particular form of dementia, but we have no knowledge of it here at all. And I found them, and then that's the only reason I self-diagnosed. I paid for my own person, and he was able to pin down exactly what it was, PCA, and I found it out from research. And from then on, there's some very good neurologists, and I have a good neurologist and now, but it's taken a long time, and it is not known. My GP had never heard of it. So, you know, I just had to take, you know, because everybody just says that you have stress. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. It's visual. It's weird visual things. So, yeah, there's a lot of education to be done with ophthalmologists, and because it happens to nearly everybody with PCA, they're sent to get their eyes tested, and their eyes are fine. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. So it's that kind of thing. Luckily, I have the ability to do that research. For people who can't, that must be really, really stumbling around, really hard.
So what kind of education do you think is required? I know that sounds like a big, kind of a dumb question, but what do you think the priority is?
For me? Are you asking?
Well, yeah, sure, or anybody, yeah. Well, let me rephrase this, because John, you have a really good neurologist, you've said. So what makes the difference between a good neurologist and one who's not quite up to I don't know, not as knowledgeable in some of these areas? So John, how did you luck out, and what's different about your neurologist?
You know, I don't know how I got so lucky because she located here maybe not a long time before I was diagnosed, and I hadn't met her, but she came to our local in-person support group and spent the whole 90 minutes of our support group with us, half with the patients and then half with the caregivers. And she probably spent more than half of the time with the patients. And I was so impressed with her. I already had an appointment to go up to Mayo, and I did go up to Mayo and go back completely through the diagnosis process with Dr. Beauvais up there, who's the chair of that department. But she was just really bright. She was so personable, and her husband is a MD specialist as well, and I don't know, because she doesn't practice probably quite full time because she has 3 small children, but she limits her practice to dementia patients, and that's where her specialty lies. And I just got lucky, I guess, that the 2 of them located here. I suspect it was maybe more the job opportunity he had than for her, but I don't know, just got lucky, I guess. Both her and her husband were German born and went to medical school in Germany, but then did their residency and fellowships in the U.S. So
I think one of the things we talked about was that the health system, including doctors, is disconnected. And our needs are in many ways they're all very different. A doctor can't just say this is one, that's the kind I treat, that's the kind I know of, and the rest. And we may need to go to various different parts of the health system, and it's not connected very well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yep. Jan, any?
Well, luck has a lot to do with it. I was sent to the neurologist I went to because of migraine headaches, and he was familiar with FTD and observed the signs in me, and so sent me for the neuropsych testing and for the PET scan that confirmed his thoughts that it was FTD. My insurance has changed since then, and I have a different neurologist, and he's not as familiar with FTD. But the one thing that is really hard is that you have their attention until they diagnose you, and then they tell you to make your end-of-life plans, and that it's terminal and that there's no treatment, and they have you come back every 6 months just to retell you the same thing, and that's really hard. I've decided not to go back to the neurologist because that's all they have left to offer.
I just wanted to add here from other groups that have done this, told their story. There's one gentleman that I thought put it really well in terms of the diagnosis. It's a crapshoot, and he felt not only getting a diagnosis was hard. It was so iffy, and then even how long? 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, how many years? There's so much unknown about dementia that I think, in fact, it is a crapshoot, and that's why people feel lucky that, as John said, that the neurologist he found has really worked. But there's not. We don't have a system that knows what it's doing and has a plan.
Right. There's been a bit of a firestorm here on the chat box from Joe's comment about chucking his Aricept and his other drug, and it ties in a bit, I think, with the idea of planned care And this is something that Steve Poniff, he's on here. And he's been commenting in the chat box. He's something that I think he would dearly love to be able to take up. And that's the idea that when you are diagnosed with some of the other major diseases, such as cancer or heart disease, you kind of know what's going to be happening. There's a plan. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You're going to have a team assigned to you. You know what medications are available. And it all kind of rolls out. But with dementia, you don't. And it's everything from you failed the memory test, you have Alzheimer's, here's some drugs, see you in a year, to really great care like John has experienced. And I agree with Maureen that it is a crapshoot. And I can see just from the comments on the chat box about the debate about should you stay on Aricept, shouldn't you stay on Aricept? And I think one really pertinent one was, well, it seems to work well for people who were diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that's what they actually have. But we know that there is a lot of misdiagnosis and overlapping diagnoses as well. And so it may not actually work well for everybody. Sorry, Sue, yeah.
One of my big things about that, because I've been asked around that and in other, is make your own decision. Don't let anybody else make your decision. I refused it even though it was for a month. And then decided, well, I'll try it. Well, I can't lose, so. But make your own decision is the most important thing. Don't let someone else make it.
The other thing to keep in mind is that we're not talking about just Alzheimer's, and we tried to really point that out in the video. We're talking about different types of dementia, and what Joe's comment was in support of is using those medications for FTD. They've been tried, they've been in trials, and they're not recommended for FTD. That does not mean that they're not recommended for Alzheimer's.
Right. That's a good point. But it seems to be sort of a blanket prescription. You appear to have some sort of dementia. It might be FTD. Therefore, here's this, or you just have dementia and here's this prescription. So, and it's the same as everybody else's prescription. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Yeah, I didn't get prescriptions for
you
that
don't.
medication.
Yeah. Richard,
No.
What do you think?
Doctors are hungry to give you the answers to the questions that we ask, and they don't have them. So they make up a generalized enough plan that it encompasses everybody, but it doesn't work for any one person. So that's of no use to us. But we just run from doctor to doctor looking for the plan when the plan is within us. As someone just said, we need to be responsible for our own plan, to make our own decisions. Mm-hmm. And the issue is not our medications, the issue is how we're going to live our lives. But we spend so much time online trying to find answers to medications, which we hope will give us answers to our lives, that we forget that in the end it's really us who make the decisions and the answers to how we're going to live our life. And it's a sort of a not to decide is to decide dilemma. Mm-hmm.
Which ties into one of John's lines in the video. John, you talked about how you would wish that all the dollars going into research, while you hope that there will be a cure, and research also goes towards medications such as Aricept and some of the other drugs available that supposedly slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease only.
No,
they
don't slow the progression. They just treat the symptoms.
Okay, so can you expand upon what you mean that you hope that some of those dollars go into helping you to live your best life now, or to see your line with something to that effect?
Yeah, well, just more resources for people that are diagnosed. There is next to nothing for resources, education, planning. Really, your only resources is whether it's the Alzheimer's Association in the United States or whatever organization in other countries, things like that. But, you go to a doctor's office, they say, okay, here's your diagnosis, see you in 6 months or a year or whatever. And there really isn't much for resources currently, especially early onset folks really feel lost usually because they don't often feel comfortable in more senior citizen type environments, and I don't know, just need a lot more resources for the people that are living with it until they can figure out how to stop the disease.
Well, where I am, and it's not a small city. The only place there is for a live group, really, the main place is a very small place, whereas there's cancer places all over the place.
Yes.
There's a prominent one just for breast cancer where they have all kinds of help. Just having a place to meet.
Mm. How does that make you feel? Then you drive around town and you see all these buildings for all the other.
Yeah. I know.
Man.
Really, it's like you're being sent home to die.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, we have stages of most of the forms of dementia. We've staged them. But the stages are just lists of what's wrong with us, what's missing from us. There are no positive stages because we've never studied it. We study what we've lost. We don't study what we have and how we can use what we have to better live our lives.
True.
Yeah, I agree. That's I've learned from Richard the power of purposeful living, because Richard, you seem to find a new purpose in your life eventually after your diagnosis, and you've been a real example to me and to thousands of people. Oh. Okay, let me just go through here and see if we're missing any questions. Feel free to share any thoughts. Yeah, so Biondi says, especially early onset, doctors just say, too bad, so sad. Here's an expensive script, my bill, and come back in 6 months for a pound on the head. Yeah, that's right.
One of the things I was just going to say, there's so many things that you lose without any question. They have no people who, including where I am, your license is immediately suspended without even knowing what you have or anything. And it took me 8 months to get mine back again. I had a summons for the first time to go to a trial, right?
Oh, drug trial?
Yeah, just, to the justice place. Yeah, be on a jury, right? Jury.
Okay, a trial, right.
Yeah,
Trial.
And right down on the bottom there was big letters, you must be here, blah, blah, blah. And down on the bottom, there were the lists of the people who they didn't want to see there. And right on one that listed a whole lot of things like crime. You've been in jail, you're a heroin addict, all these awful things, was you have dementia on the same line. I was so mad. I was perfectly able, actually, to go, but there I am down on that line. And that happens a lot. It happened in insurance when I went to look for travel insurance. Holy macaroni. Most of the big ones have you listed right up there now. If you, they won't even look at you for insurance. It's those kinds of things that are really ignorant.
Yes. And that's what they are, is ignorant.
That's more of that clumping.
That's true.
Well, that's because we're supposed to fit what's on page 87 of the medical manual, that little box.
Yeah.
That's if we don't fit in that little box, we can't have. And that's it. And that's part of what I've been trying to break is I didn't fit in that box. My doctor and I sat and we talked and we went through things, and I sat down and I studied medications. I can read the pharmacology reports. And I sat with him one day, and he said, well, this and that. And I said, wait, this is supposed to do this, this is supposed to do this, this is supposed to do this, and this is supposed to do this. Am I or am I not correct? Yes, you are. I said, well, it isn't doing it, so why would we use another thing for it? And that's when I went for the PET scan. When I really confronted him, that's when I finally went for my PET scan.
Wow.
And when I got the thing back, he didn't even understand what was written by the radiologist of what was wrong. And that's why I went to a different neurologist. And I picked one. I checked through everybody in the state of California to find the best that I could and pay. It cost me for 10 minutes $780 for her to tell me go out and enjoy the rest of my life. And the drugs I know, but I have read so much about these drugs. When the manufacturer puts in their own 5,000 word pharmacology report that you can't read unless you get a magnifying glass, that one of the things that you can expect from this drug is for it not to work for you.
Right. Jeez.
When they put that in their own pharmacology thing, to me that says that drug ain't worth shit. If you're telling me that I'm going to take something that probably isn't going to work, go away. I don't want it. And that's in Aricept, that's in Namenda, that's in Exelon, it's in the rest of them, and there's some old-time drugs that they used to use, and they're all the same way because they don't know.
They don't know, exactly. Sue and I went to a conference last February at the University of British Columbia, and it was put on by their Brain Center. Sue, I don't know if you saw the presentation by the neurologist from their Brain Center, who talked about all the different diagnoses. And they did studies where people who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, there was an autopsy done after they died and they didn't have Alzheimer's disease. And he showed the statistics on what kind of dementia they did have and how many of those diagnoses were overlapping. So maybe they had Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia and frontal. Yeah. And so how can, I know that the scans, I guess, have added a lot to the ability to diagnose, but yeah, how can they prescribe one drug and think that it's going to cure all of those overlapping diagnoses when they don't even really know at all? So it goes back to Richard's point about living, helping everybody to live their lives now. And I think it was Biondo made the comment to Sue's point. Yeah, Biondo said to Susan's point, state advance directives. Whoops. Lost her comment, say that ask if you do not want CPR if you are, quote, in a coma or have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So that goes along with what you're saying. So they're equating Alzheimer's disease with a coma to have CPR.
Or your judgment is impaired, so let it go.
Right, but you can't, yeah. We, a few months ago, we had a lady on Natalie. No, it wasn't Natalie. Oh no, what was her name? Began with G. Anyways, she's from a university in England, in York, and her presentation was on decision making, assisting people with dementia decision making. And in the UK, they guarantee the human rights of people with dementia and guarantee the assistance in making decisions. So there's a recognition that a level of judgment does exist and that there are ways to assist people in still letting their wishes be known and to have those taken into account. So Mike May asked a great question, which I think there are a few people who could weigh in on. And he said, who are our lobbyists? So Mike is speaking as a person with dementia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. But you asked, who are our lobbyists? Well, who
In
are
the US?
anywhere in the world? Who are our lobbyists? Richard, who are our lobbyists?
Oh, we are.
We are. You are. Exactly.
We have some very good ones here today.
Yeah. I think videos such as the one that you saw today is a form of lobbying. It's a case of educating and raising awareness.
Mm-hmm. I thought it today of that thing I remember someone said to you, I think, when you asked them why you include people with dementia, and the answer from, I think it was a government person, was, what do you mean? We're doing it for them.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the problem? It's all for them.
It's all for. Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. Yeah. What do you mean we're doing it for them? Yes. Yeah. So let's see. I'm sorry, Richard. No, Joe, go ahead. Yeah.
The biggest problem, I think, with our diseases is, one, everybody's looking for a cure. The hell with that. Let's look for the cause first.
Mm-hmm.
Without a cause, you can't cure it. I've learned that from everything that I've done in the computer field. But they studied dead tissue. I offered my one neurologist to let him drill holes in my head, take out the dead tissue, take out the dying tissue, and take out the living tissue next to it, and find out what the hell is really going on. Look at it from point to point. See what the progression is. I was told we can't do that. I said, why? They said, well, you may die. Well, God damn it, I'm going to die anyways from this. Or you may come back out not knowing what you know today. I said, well, you know what? Tomorrow I'm not going to know what I know today. So what is the difference here? What it came down to was, well, we can't do human trials, period, because our society will not accept it. And I said, you know what? I bet you I could find a good 10, 15,000 people that'll march into your office and be ready to do this, because we know for us, there's nothing, but for my grandchildren, I want something.
Mm-hmm. I was very sad when my son told me that, he's really hesitant about even thinking about, and this is in his early 20s, children, because of the future, I thought, oh, wow. I think some of the answers and causes are with us. We're the ones who have the symptoms. We're the ones who can look back on our life. And I think they need to do major research with live people.
That's
if
right.
you're looking for a cause.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the session now because people are having to leave. So any last words, any parting words from our panelists or from Richard today? I think Maureen has already had to leave.
No, I haven't left yet.
She's still there. Okay, then you do have to leave.
So let me just make a plea. If anyone, the people that were in the March group, it was so impressive, and now we've got four more people that have told their stories. We need more. We need to swell the ranks of people that speak up about their experience. So if anyone either is interested themselves in being a part of the next group, or they know somebody that would really like to do this, I really hope that you'll let Laura know and Richard through a meeting of the minds, because I think the group that spoke today hopefully will get together now with the group that spoke in March, and that will be another lively conversation. So there's just more, there's more talking that has to happen among ourselves so that we can speak clearly to the world that, as Sue said, has their stories. Caregivers have stories, professionals have stories. This is your chance to have your story heard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I wanted to say, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Maureen. Yes, if anybody who is here today or who knows somebody with a diagnosis of dementia and would like to participate in a video project like you saw today, you can go to the minds-meeting.com website and just use the contact form on there, and I will respond, and Maureen will respond. And I encourage you. I think everybody has a lot of fun and becomes good friends afterwards.
Yeah.
Richard, any parting words today?
There's 29 people online right now. If each one of us would pledge to tell 2 people about the website, the YouTube about this, we would triple the number of people who were exposed to this.
Right.
We have to take the responsibility ourselves to stand up and speak out.
Right.
And let me say on behalf of everybody who's muted, thank you for standing up and speaking out. And thank you, Maureen, for making this happen.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen.
Mm-hmm.
I thank both you,
And
Maureen, and Laura
Yeah.
for this. But I want to say, I like your 2 things, Richard, that 2 people. I want you to know that I have 110,000 people in my Google Plus circle that come to my blog. Every one of them got notification of this meeting and this because I want the word out. My days are clicking away, and that's okay. But I have grandchildren. I don't want them to click for them. I want something done. And I have real one pet peeve that I heard on here today that's really, really bugs the crap out of me.
I've got to go, Joe. Don't take it personally.
No. This really bugs me. We heard about cancer and breast cancer. I just want you to know that in 2011, 39,500 men and women died from breast cancer. That same year, 308,280 people, men and women, died from Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly women.
Dementia.
Dementia.
That's up for debate, but yeah.
Okay. But what I want to say is, what's more important to people? Your mind or your,
I'll say it for you, Joe.
We can say it.
San Diego County, our disease is the 3rd killer of females in San Diego County.
Mm-hmm.
45,000 come out to march for your boobs, but geez, get about 6,000 maybe all across the whole county to come out and march for your minds. Come on, this is more important, And I don't want to see anybody die from anything except what they have to die from, which is death. When finally the Grim Reaper comes and says, "Hey, you're done breathing. You're done heart beating. It's time. It's your time to move on to make room for somebody else." But this country doesn't seem to care about us. They really don't. And I can tell you, I've written to Dr. Phil, I've written to the great Oprah Winfrey. I've written to Dr. Drew, Dr. Oz. I've sent them my book. I've sent them all kinds of stuff and asked and said, hey, when are you going to have the dot, 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 dot? And I get the obligatory response, well, you know, we got to take this, we got to take that. And Oprah Winfrey doesn't like me, I can tell you that, because I told her exactly what I thought of her. And, well, Richard, you probably know that I'm very capable of doing that, because I did that on your blog once, I think.
Yes.
Very early stages when you were vehement about things and talking about your profession, not knowing. And that just got to me to say, well, how does it feel to know that your profession doesn't give a shit about you? You know, and that's how I got introduced to Richard and Richard to me. And this is how I am. I'm very emotional about this, and I'm very passionate. And I might speak of the darker side, but the darker side is the real reality of the disease. And people have to know that. They have to know what Sue's going through. They have to know what John's going through.
Mhm.
They have to know what everybody else that's on here that has dementia, and Jan, what we're going through and what Richard's going through. Yes, Richard tries to be very eloquent, but I believe that there is a part of his soul that wants to reach out and just grab people by the neck and say, listen, damn it,
You
listen.
think?
You know,
Yep.
and
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Jan and Sue, any parting words?
Yes, nobody asked who the Mensa member was.
Ah.
Yeah, no.
It was Joe.
Yeah,
Joe, yes.
obviously, Joe.
that's because
Don't read doctor.
I remembered. I'm proud.
Yeah,
well, they can't. No, the crowd can't remember
no.
because we've given them our
Can't help you
disease.
there, Joe.
No, we've given them our disease.
They're on our side of the fence.
Transmitted it to them.
Sue, any parting words?
No, just thank you to you guys. That was,
Okay.
and to everybody else on.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You'll be getting an email with the link to the recording. We have a recordings page on the website. Both John and Joe have blogs as well, and I'll put the link on there to their blogs. And to the To Whom I May Concern website, if you'd like to contact Maureen directly. Thank you again for being here. And to mirror what Richard said, please share the video. Share it through Twitter, through Facebook with all your friends. And let's get lots of people watching the video.
How
So-
many were there today? About.
I don't know what the final count was. I couldn't touch my screen. I kept messing it like during the video. It would send me messages, like your screen's not being shared anymore. Like, oh no.
At one point, there was over 100 people in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of messages. I can't copy them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they could be somehow saved. Anyways. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Okay, and October 29th is the next webinar with Nicole Batch. So be there or
Right.
be square. Should be good.
God bless you all.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
Jan. Thank you,
Bye.
Sue. Thanks, Richard. Bye.
Bye.